So I remember when I started working more and some of the friends that I had were a little bit more ambitious, I started realizing that the people that I liked the most, I actually didn't spend as much time with, and the people that were always available were the ones that I didn't want to become more like. Here's 5 questions you should consider when thinking about whether to keep a friend in your life or cut them. Question number 1 is, if someone told you that you're a lot like your friend, would you take that as a compliment? Second, are you truly fulfilled by the friendship, or is it just someone to keep you from being lonely? Third, are you able to be unapologetically yourself, or do you feel the need to act differently to please that friend or to be around that friend? Fourth, do you like who this friend is right now today, or do you like the idea of the friend and who they could be someday? And then finally, 5, would you want your future or imagined child to be friends with someone like this person? And I think it's a really wonderful litmus test because it forces you to take a look outside of yourself in order to have perspective from a third-party angle on the true quality of that person. But the reality is that rare people are by definition rare. It's normal to have fewer of them. And so if you only have a few friends or one good friend, then that's normal if you want rare and exceptional friends. If you have many friends, it's far more likely that the bar for your friendship is too low. And to give you a filter that I actually used for the most important friend in my life, Layla, I like to think, does this person have the same scale of goals that I have? So it doesn't mean that they have to have the same goals as you, but it has to be the same level of goals as you, because at least you're going in the same direction. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, do they have the same level of dedication and commitment to those goals? Because I don't know about you, but I had plenty of friends who were like, I want to be an NFL player. I want to be a really rich tech entrepreneur. I want to be a touring musician, right? And they had these goals, but I'm like, dude, I see you just playing Fortnite 4 hours a day and you practice guitar once a week. Like, do you really want that? Or do you just like saying it because it makes you feel good? And so I wanted people who walked the walk, and I wanted people who would keep up with my pace. And if you are someone who's ambitious, and this is me just talking specifically to you because there's only a few people who are watching this who really are, and you'll know that if it's you, you have to get used to being alone. Because there are seasons where you'll basically transition from one group of friends into another. And it's not even a group of, you'll usually transition from a group of friends into no friends. And then you'll find 1 or 2 people who are at a new level. And then sometimes those people introduce you to some of their friends. And if you keep walking and you keep outpacing, then that group will then start retiring past you. And then maybe one person stays with you, maybe no one does, and you'll have another lonely period. I'm saying this because I used to think that there was something wrong with me, when in reality, I just didn't understand what the nature of being exceptional meant. And so I'm saying this purely from a definitional perspective. To be exceptional means that you are the exception. It means that you are not normal. And so it's normal for normal people to find you abnormal if you do things that are not normal. Don't let people who have mediocre goals deter you from taking actions that make you great, because it makes you different. Realizing that I thought most people actually made no sense. They say they had these goals, but they took no action. And they called me work obsessed, and they would tell me I should take time off. And they're like, hey, you're not as cool anymore. You're not hanging out with the boys. Like, why aren't you participating in the fantasy league? Why aren't you watching football on Sunday with us? And for me, I actually used to love watching football with my friends. It was actually one of my biggest things that I look forward to. But the thing is that like I needed that Sunday because I had to prep workouts, I had to prep the music list for the next day, I had to run billing, I had to do all this other work. And the thing is that like I looked at that football game and I was like, my goals are more important to me than this. And so I think that a lot of people don't actually look at themselves in the mirror and say like, 1 year from today, will I remember this football game? Or will I remember the fact that I'm not where I said I wanted to be? And to me, that was significantly more painful. Now, this is an uncomfortable fact for a lot of people. Your ability to delay gratification is actually a function of intelligence. And so your ability to learn at a longer and longer delay is something that comes, we're talking from primates all the way up. And so basically, if you want to teach a monkey how to do something, you have to say, hey, do this thing, and then immediately give them a reward. And the longer that period goes on, the less trainable they are. The sign of intelligence is that you can actually expand the reinforcement window and they can still abstract it back to the original action. If you want to practice intelligence, then being able to actively delay your need for a result or reward from the work you do will make you a more intelligent person, because your rate of learning will actually increase, despite the fact that your reward rate will decrease in the short term. And so, to give you full transparency on what 2025 might look like if you accomplish your goals at the end, you might have a different friend group or no friends at all for a season, because you don't become like the people you admire. You become like the people you want to impress. Harvard made this wonderful study years ago about the best predictor of someone's long-term material success was what they called their reference group. Now, this has been misquoted in places by the 5 people you spend the most time with, but it's actually the 5 people you compare yourself to. And that's a very big difference. Now, I want to take it a step further, because I think to myself, what are the things that affect our behavior? And so it's really about the people that you want to impress, not necessarily even who you compare yourself to, because it's the people whose voices you hear when you're about to make a big life decision. And so when you make a big life decision, you don't listen to the people closest to you. You should listen to the people closest to your goals. And some of them may not be in your neighborhood or your city or your state or your high school or your college. They might just be people you follow on the internet. And you have to abstract, what would that person think about this decision? Not my mom, not my homie, not my uncle, or that person at church. And so I think this is a great transition of thinking through, instead of necessarily even having mentors, having heroes, and transposing what you think their decision-making calculus would be onto your life. And so what's interesting is that I will have conversations with entrepreneurs, and they'll say, hey, here's my current condition. This is my desired state. This is what I perceive my obstacle to be. And I say, okay, well, what do you think? And they're like, well, I think you're going to say I should do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you're right. Why aren't you? They're like, well, and the thing is that basically what they answer with after that well is, in essence, other people's opinion who aren't at the place they want to be. Here's the uncomfortable truth, which is that winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. And you never receive hate from above, always below, because winners have their eyes on the goal, not on other people. And so you have to decide whether you want to be a loser or a winner. And I'm just being real with you. What this looks like in reality, and maybe for you in 2025, will be like this. First, you look like an idiot to everyone else while you try to figure it out. Then, everyone else looks like an idiot for ever doubting you. Seasons. And so everyone takes a different amount of years to stop giving a fuck about what everyone else thinks. And if you're going to get there eventually, you might as well start today and enjoy the benefits longer. So if I'm 85 years old, I think about what that man cares about. And that man cares about very, very little. All you have to do is talk to an elderly person or a grandparent and be like, what do you think about this? A lot of people are like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Life is literally too short. They literally don't have time for it. And so I think to myself, if that's the ultimate version of me, if I'm going to get there eventually, and that's what the wisest people think after having the most life experience, then why would I not try to cheat code that into today and then not have to go looking back from 85 and think, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. Look forward to 85-year-old self and say, I am going to choose to learn the lesson I know I'm going to learn and act as if I knew it today. Because the difference between them and you is that what they consider work, you consider life. And so you have to accept that you have a fundamental different understanding of how life works. And I believe that is a more accurate view of reality. The reason that the rich can get richer is because they see the world differently than the poor. And so it makes sense that if your poor friends don't see what you see, that they see through the lens of poverty. And all my goal in life is to be able to see reality more accurately. And so in the beginning, you have to develop this armor, this thick skin around people saying those little snide comments of like, you work too hard, you're too obsessed, you have a toxic work capacity, and why are you working weekends? Why are you working late nights? You're not, like, this is not worth it. They're not paying you enough for the work that you do. All of these different things, because eventually that armor on the outside actually just becomes one with you, and you don't even